Hey, nice Atypical Daydream t-shirt.
Thanks. It's my favorite podcast.
Mine too. But where can I get a t-shirt?
It's easy. The link is in the show notes.
That is easy. I'm gonna go get one right now.
That's a great idea.
Thanks. Bye.
You bet. Stay cool.
So I'm just spiraling. It's one of those nights where I'm just totally awake, eyes just open, just thinking about all the possibilities. You know, when we go to the desert trek, I'm not going to be the only one. There'll be a group of us and I'll be safe in the numbers. And so I kind of felt, naively, I'm like, I'll be okay if things go bad.
Hello, my Atypical Daydreamers. Welcome to the podcast. This is a show about life on the road. And we got t-shirts. Fun fact, those kids in the t-shirt ad before the show, those are my people. My 6-year-old son and my 10-year-old daughter. My guest today is Derek Howard. He's a cinematographer, a filmmaker, and a seasoned world traveler. You know, I love a good road story that blends innocence and beauty with the real messy existential threat. One of those no-turning-back journeys where the only way out is through. Today, Derek takes us deep into northern Africa with just that kind of story. And a quick heads up, this episode includes content that may be triggering for those who've experienced assault. Please listen with care.
In the summer of 2006, I had this idea of going on this solo 1-month-long trip all through Morocco, filming my thesis film. I was in a film school in Vancouver at Simon Fraser University, and my thesis film was going to be shot on Super 8. I was going to shoot it by myself in the Sahara Desert. And I didn't really have a really strong plan. It was kind of a loose kind of road trip narrative and very experimental. So I left my friends in Spain. We were in Cadiz, and I took a bus down to Tarifa, spent a few nights, then took the ferry from Tarifa over to Tangiers. So I'm on the ferry, I'm going across, and, I'm by myself. I've been with my friends for the last 2 months. I'm kind of like maybe 23 years old or something like that. I get off the boat. I'd never been to Africa before. And then I'm just immediately descended upon by, the usual local guides who want to, help you out, show you around, just extort money out of you. And I'm saying, no, I have my hotel booked. I'm going to my hotel. I'm walking. And the entire time I walk from the ferry terminal to my hotel, of course, there's like a group of like 4 or 5 different guides vying for my attention and also trying to, get me to tip them out and take them on as my guide. So I'm exhausted. I finally get to my hotel. I go to bed. I get up hours later. I come out of the hotel, and sure enough, several of those guides are still waiting for me outside my hotel room, just waiting. They literally lead me to an ATM machine and tell me to take money out and give it to them. Otherwise, they're not going to leave me alone. So I'm just kind of being led to this ATM, and they're like, yeah, take it out. And I'm like, of course, I'm only giving them the equivalent of like maybe $10 or something. But still, it was like this moment of like, okay, now this is a situation where like I'm a walking dollar sign and I need to kind of take care of this. So long story short, I have lots of adventures in Tangiers, and I end up at this kind of rooftop cafe. And it's this beautiful with a lookout over the harbor. And this guy sits down beside me, and we're enjoying some Berber whiskey, which is just mint tea. Because there's no alcohol really in Morocco unless you go to fancy American hotels or something like this. So we're sitting there on this beautiful rooftop bar. We're just chatting. And he's like, hey, do you want to meet like a famous artist? I'm like, of course. I'd love to meet a famous artist. That's great. Like, don't think twice about it. We jump in a taxi, and he starts leading me on this wild ride through Tangiers. And we eventually arrive at this little kind of apartment, and we go upstairs. It's very mysterious. And I get in there, and there's this kind of elderly Moroccan man cooking a fish tagine, and the house smells amazing. And this guy I met at the bar introduces me to him. He's like, oh, this is Mohammed Mabret. I'm like, okay, I don't recognize the name. But I start to notice on the walls of his apartment, completely plastered from floor to ceiling, are photos of this guy, this Mohammed Mabret, with famous American beat poets. Like he's with Ginsberg, he's with Tennessee Williams, he's with like Paul Bowles, he's with Jane Bowles, he's with like all these kind of like Truman Capote, like these beat poet generation people were obviously very close with this guy. I was like, okay, what's going on here? There's pictures of him with all these famous artists and people. So we have a conversation over dinner, and it becomes clear to me that this was actually Paul Bowles's lover and chef. And I'm not sure if you know who Paul Bowles is. He's a very famous beat generation poet, married to Jane Bowles, and they were kind of this like quintessential American beat poet people that had moved to Tangiers and popularized Tangiers as a location for other creatives of the time to come visit and kind of take part in this like hash orgy gay kind of world that they had dug out for themselves there. And he's like, oh, you want to buy one of my paintings? I'm like, oh, they're beautiful. Yes, I'd love to. And he's showing me different ones. And here's a beautiful painting. I think like, he's like, oh, it's for you. I give it a really special price. You know, like I don't even care about the money. Just, you could just buy it for like 200 euros. And I'm like, oh, I'm backpacking by myself, and 200 euros is like my budget for several days, and I can't take this art with me. I can't roll it up and put it in my backpack. Like it's going to get destroyed. So I say, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't buy that, but I'd like to buy something from you. And he's like, well, I've written a number of books, and I've translated all of Paul Bowles' books, but I've also written my own books. Want to buy one of my original novels? So I buy one of his novels called Love with a Few Hairs, and he draws a little picture in there and signs my name and everything. It's really cute. So I go away and had that felt like this magical kind of Tangiers night where you meet these amazing people. But just before I leave the house, he tells me, I told him I was there to shoot a film, and he's like, okay, well, whatever you do, shoot the film in Chebbi. I'm like, what's Chebbi? He's like, oh, that's the sub-Sahara desert. Like, that's the area where the sand dunes meet the civilization. And it's funny because, you know, I'd already set off to make my film in the Sahara desert. Like, that's why I was in Morocco. And he's like, whatever you do, make sure you film at this particular place. So I'm like, okay. And then I leave, and, you know, I don't think much of it. I'm reading his book. And the book's great, and I later adapted that into a screenplay, and I thought that was going to be my first feature film, which hasn't happened yet, but I definitely spent a lot of time with that material because it kind of came to me in this serendipitous way, and I kind of don't believe in coincidences like that, so I thought it meant something. So anyway, I'm reading his book, I'm on trains, I'm on buses, I'm going down through Morocco. I decide that I need to go to shoot my film now. I've been to a music festival there, I've had a lot of fun, I need to now get down to business and go shoot my film. So I meet a guide, and he's like, yeah, I can take you to Chebbi, to like, you know, to the sub-Sahara desert, and take you on like a 3-day tour, all inclusive with food and transportation and everything. It'll all be taken care of. And I'm wary of all the kind of tricks that can happen in these kind of places. I've definitely traveled a lot, and I'm aware of that stuff, but I'd done some due diligence. I checked this guy out. It sounded like it was pretty legit. So I felt confident. So I'm like, okay, let's go. So I give him the money, and he's like, okay. So it starts on this bus. And even though I've already paid this guy the lump sum to cover everything, he's still asking me for like the bus fare, like every time we go on a bus or train. So that's like the first red flag. It's like, dude, I've already paid you, and now you're asking me every single time that I need to pay more. But because everything's so cheap in Morocco, I don't really care, because we're talking about a matter of like $5, $6, $7 each time. So I don't really worry about it. So, but that was like the first thing on my mind. Like, okay, there's something's a little off here. This is far from all inclusive. We travel for a while. It's like, you know, typical buses you can imagine, just packed, sweltering hot. We stop at another place for hours waiting for another bus to come. There's no schedule. You're just waiting, and eventually a bus comes, and there's no signs at all. It's just like you got to be with someone local who just knows where these things are going. Morocco is a very diverse landscape. So you can go from a sub-Sahara desert climate to a mountain climate to like a desert and an ocean climate, like all within a few hours. We're looking out the window. It's just gorgeous. And we happen to now be in a part, it's a very high altitude desert area, the Atlas Mountains. So we're heading towards Marrakesh, and the bus breaks down. And it's like about 110, maybe 115 degrees outside, no shade. And everyone just starts getting off the bus. And as this out of nowhere, all these taxis start appearing. And just everyone from the bus just starts getting in these taxis. And I don't know anyone except for my guide. And we're on the bus. And everyone on the bus just starts to disappear. The bus is smoking. The hood's up. You know, it's totally not happening. And more than half the people on the bus have now just disappeared onto these other random taxis. And me and my guide are just sitting there like, well, how are we getting out of this? Eventually, everyone disappears. We're the last ones there. And I'm asking my guide the whole time, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And he's like, oh, no, they'll fix the bus. They'll fix the bus. Of course, hours go by. The bus is not fixed. And finally, you know, he decides to hail a taxi, and we get lucky. We get a taxi. 6 of us random people from the bus. We all pile in this taxi, and we're off to our destination, which is Erfoud, which is many, many hours away, like 10 more hours away. So We're going to Erfoud. We're on the taxi. It's like a night trip now. So now it's like days turn to night. I'm like in the middle of this cab, just flanked by all these people. There's all 7 of us in this car built for 5. We're just bouncing along. I have no idea where we're going. And we haven't had food or water in a long, long time. So it's actually starting to feel a bit more like survival mode now because there's no 7-Elevens. We're in the middle of nowhere. There's no way to hydrate. Our lungs are like full of dust at this point. And this is like turned out to be like a 7-hour taxi ride. So we pull into our destination just as the sun's coming up, just totally wasted from exhaustion. His parents live in this town, and we're gonna go. Apparently, in the next couple of days, we're gonna use this as our base, and we're gonna make it to the desert in the next couple of days. We're gonna use this as a little home base where my guide's parents live. So we go to his parents' house. I have a shower with a bucket of water over a hole, that kind of shower situation. My guide's name is Hisham. So Hisham is like from this village. So for him, it almost feels like I've just financed a trip home for him, like a trip back to his childhood home where he's just having a great time. He's like meeting all his friends. He's making me buy hash and then smoking it with everyone. And we're just like having a trip down memory lane for him, right? And, he said it was all inclusive, but that meant like a piece of stale bread with some like cheese, like cream cheese just smeared on it. Like that was like dinner one night. So it's like he was really interested in just like smoking as much hashish as possible and just reminiscing with his old friends. So we literally, for the whole day and first night there, it just consisted of him just taking me around to different friends who were inevitably hash dealers. So night falls. We're exhausted again from just walking around all day, didn't sleep that well. We go back to his parents' apartment and he's like, okay, tomorrow we go to the desert. So we need a good sleep. Let's go to bed. And he's like, okay. And before, we go to bed, like it's time to give you like the traditional like Berber massage. I'm like, okay, well, like I know people in Morocco, their comfort levels in terms of physical proximity is a lot different than people from like America or Canada or whatever. So like, I was like, okay, this is okay. So I take my clothes off. I'm like, got my underwear. I go into my sleeping bag and I'm going to sleep on the couch and he's sleeping in the living room beside me. And he's like, wants to give me this massage. And he starts to rub my shoulders and chest. And I'm like, okay, that's good. I'm good. I was starting to feel uncomfortable because I could tell that he wanted a bit more than a massage. But I kind of pushed him away. I'm like, no, like I'm good. I don't want that. I was making it very clear. He goes back to his bed and I'm back in mine. And it's quiet, for maybe 5 minutes. And then like 5 minutes later, he's back on top of me. It's like, it's traditional here that we do 4 kisses goodnight. You have to kiss me 4 times. I'm like, I'm not sure if I've heard of that custom before, but I'm in this person's home. I'm young and naive, and I'm just thinking, okay, this is what you do. And he's like, okay, kiss me 4 times. So we kissed 4 times, and it was okay. But then the last kiss, it was like you could tell that this was not consensual. He was like pushing me down and holding me down. So I pushed him off. And I was, pretty flustered at this point because I've never really had anyone force themselves on me like that before. And it was pretty, upsetting. And furthermore, the fact that this is my guide, so this is someone in a position of power where I need him, I depend on him. I can't just be like, bye, because I don't know where to go. I don't speak the language. So I really was dependent on him for my whole situation. So I didn't feel like I could react in the way I would have if I wasn't, sequestered in this far off place. So I push him off and I think it's over. And then like, maybe 5-10 minutes later, he's back and he's like, one more time, you have to kiss me on the mouth. And this time he really like went for it with his tongue and it was like really intense. And I remember pushing him off quite violently and being really shooken up. And he could tell I was shooken up because I think I was shaking and I was really upset. So he finally got the message and stopped. But the whole night, it was like a sleepless night. So he went to bed right away. And I'm just lying there paralyzed. So I'm thinking the next day I'm going to the Sahara Desert with this person who just forced himself on me. And yes, it was only kissing, but maybe what if it's not? Like, what if my head starts to spiral? Like, I know he carries a knife. I'm like, what if this knife comes out when we're in the middle of the desert? Like, so I'm just spiraling. It's one of those nights where I'm just totally awake, eyes just open, just thinking about all the possibilities and like, how am I going to get out of this mess? But I've already paid him all this money. We're already all the way out there. And surely there'll be other people around, I'm thinking. When we go to the desert trek, I'm not going to be the only one. There'll be a group of us and I'll be safe in the numbers. And I am bigger and stronger than him. So I kind of felt, naively, I'm like, I'll be okay if things go bad.
Hey, it's Josh. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. And if so, are you wanting more road stories? Well, good news. I've got you covered. Consider becoming a patron. You'll have access to loads of great bonus stories that there just wasn't time for. And you'll be supporting a truly independent podcast. Find the link in the show notes, and thanks. Now back to the show.
Next day comes, we take a taxi to the edge of the town, Chebbi. We get the camels, everything's cool. But I noticed the place is like utterly deserted. Like this little village on the edge of the sub-Sahara, it pretty much exists just to service tourists going on these backpacking excursions. There's no real city or anything there. There's just a place to buy like warm Coca-Cola and like figs. So it was like pretty sparse on supplies. I'm wondering the whole time, where is this food going to come from? If the food was that bad in the small villages, what's it going to be in the desert? So I'm already pretty nervous about the conditions of this trip. And all the while, I am still trying to make the film. So I've been stopping, we start the trek and I'm on the camel. It was kind of weird too, because I'm on the camel and I thought he'd be on a camel too, but he's just walking in front, pulling the rope. I'm like, okay, well, the optics of that, I didn't like that anyway. But furthermore, I figured we'd be like moving at a pace of like an animal walking, not as a human pulling an animal. So the whole thing was a lot slower and a lot less, I thought it'd be more of a trek, but it's more of just a guided walk. And then I realized there's no one else with us, like literally no one. Like now I'm being led into the desert with a person that assaulted me 12 hours before, no one in sight. But I didn't feel like I could change course. There was no one around, and he was the only person that spoke English. So I didn't feel like I had another option, because I didn't even feel confident I could get out of that town by myself, let alone the desert. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have to play this out. I gotta hope that last night was just a stupid one-off mistake, and that we're gonna be okay, because I didn't really feel there was another option. And I distinctly remember the feeling of going from the road and then the feeling of being on a camel and the camel's feet are on the road to stepping off the road into the sand. And there's that feeling of the camel, all of a sudden the steps sink down and it gets more like quicksand. And I remember this kind of sinking feeling as we left the road and we're only on the sand. I'm like, oh, I'm going down, like I'm going into quicksand here. But at the same time, it's the most jaw-droppingly beautiful setting you've ever been to. So there's this weird thing inside of you where you're dreading, your sixth sense is on and you're dreading something, but at the same time you're surrounded by such beauty that you're also just kind of godsmacked. And as a filmmaker, I'm such a visual person. I got my camera out and I'm filming the sunset, I'm filming all the footprints in the sand swirling on the dunes, and I'm quite taken by this overload of visual stimulation. And we're stopping at the top of dunes and watching the sunset, and it's just like absolutely some of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen in my life. In a way, the beauty of the day kind of erased the trauma of the night. And we get there, and then thankfully, we get to the Oasis where we're going to camp. And thank God, there's like 2 or 3 other guides with like 2 or 3 other people. So it's like, okay, I'm safe. It's okay. Everything's cool. There's other people here. There was like someone from Canada, someone from Montreal. I'm like, oh wow, a fellow Canadian, or like other people. I really started to feel a lot more comfortable. And then they would go to a hole in the ground, they would have like a lid. They would dig in the sand, and there would be like a hatch. And they open this hatch, and there'd be a rope, and they pull this rope up, and up comes a bucket from like a well, not with water, but with like food that had been prepared and cold stored there. And it was like all the preparation you need to make a really nice like tagine with chicken. So like they fire up the grill, they make this incredible tagine. The food's amazing. The Berber tea is flowing, the hash is flowing. We're having a campfire. I'm like, oh wow, it's all that I hoped it would be. This is great. So I'm getting to know the other people in the campsite, and we're looking at the beautiful stars. You can see a million shooting stars. It's just stunning. And then we all go to bed, and we all have separate tents. But then my guide comes into my tent in the middle of the night. And he has the knife. And he's basically saying if we don't do what he wants to do, he's going to hurt me with the knife. I'm like in shock because I thought that we were past this. And I'm also in shock because the other tents of the other people are maybe 15 feet away from me, like definitely not far. And if I were to make any sort of yells or screams, I think it would be heard. So I, as he's coming at me with the knife, I tell him, this is not happening. There's people all around me, and I'm going to scream if you take one more step closer to me. He lunges at me, and I grab it. So I'm lucky enough that he is a fair bit smaller than me, and I was just stronger. So he lunges at me. I grab the knife from his hand. He bolts out of the tent. I was terrified because at this point, Like, I've never had a situation like that with like a weapon involved and that kind of danger. But I don't feel safe leaving. I just stay in the tent with the knife and I go to bed. Next morning, I get up, everyone's gone, including my guide. Like everyone's gone. The camel's there. My camel's there. Everyone else is gone. There's another, then I look I'm like obviously in shock, right? I'm like, I've been abandoned in the Sahara Desert. I have no idea which way out is. I don't have water. I was relying on my guide entirely for all the provisions. There is one local person who was there who was already at the Oasis when we came. He's someone who I guess lives in the area. He doesn't speak any English at all. I go over to him and through a series of like pointing and like a guidebook with words, I'm able to piece together that he said that he left with the Canadian family. So he basically, my guide like ditched me with these other family from Montreal. They were probably offering him more money, or since I was not a proper victim for him, or, you know, he didn't get what he wanted from me. So he just ditched me completely. And of course he took my money. You know, I was supposed to have room and board all the way back to Essaouira, which is a 5-day trip. And, you know, he just completely blew that off. So I have no choice but to convince this guy who lives out here at this Oasis to take me back to Chebbi, because I need to get back, obviously, to civilization. It takes a long time to convince him to go, but I think he realized that like I was pretty screwed and that if he wasn't going to take me out, I would probably not make it. So he takes the rope of the camel and we both just walk out. I'm not going to ride this time. We're just both walking. The entire 3 or 4 hours of trekking, the entire time, all he says is floosh, 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 which is Arabic for money, like for cash. He's just like, give me cash, give me cash, give me cash. Like the entire time he's like, I'm not doing this unless you give me cash. I need cash. And I don't have any cash. Like my guide took it all. I had my cards with me, but there's no ATMs around, right? So, you know, and he's harassing me for 4 hours just saying, you have to give me money for this. There's no way I'm doing this for free. I can't, you know. So we get to the small village. There's no ATMs there. So he insists that we take a taxi to go to the nearest ATM. Of course, I don't even have money for a taxi. So he gets his friend to take us in his car. We drive another hour to the nearest ATM. We get there, and of course, the bank's, that card's not working, and this card's not working. There was like, I had 3 cards, and like the first 2 don't work at all. And I'm starting to freak out because the guy is not going to take no for an answer. The third card, after calling my bank and like it was like some weird thing where they were locking the card because I was using the card somewhere I didn't tell them I was going to be. So finally on the third card, it works, and I get a couple $100 out, and I give the guy whatever it was, and he lets me go. And then from there, I was able to take a train back to Marrakesh and then continue my trip. So I did make it out of the situation in one piece, and he didn't get me with the knife, and he didn't, you know, actually sexually assault me that second time. So I kind of consider myself pretty lucky for how I came out of that situation. And I got amazing footage too. And now to this day, when I watch that footage, it brings back this amazing mixture of like terrible, terrible trauma mixed with like a feeling of like beauty of the earth and how almost my love for nature helped me survive that in a way, which doesn't really make sense. But I somehow felt I wouldn't have gone there. I wouldn't have been there in the first place if I wasn't the kind of person that was very adventurous and wanted to see the more extreme sides of nature. But of course, that led me into a rather dangerous situation. But I do feel that like somehow my love of just natural landscapes and the beauty out there kind of gave me strength to persevere through that. And then the weirdest thing is I get back and I'm reading the book. I finished reading the book, The Love with a Few Hairs I bought. And I look up Mohammed Mabret, and apparently he was a huge, huge famous artist. He had solo shows at the MoMA, and the piece he was trying to sell me was worth like $50K. so like, I really should have bought that piece.
I want to thank Derek for sharing his experience. Be sure to check out his most recent project, a horror film he shot called Eugene the Marine, and the upcoming documentary called Totally, about last year's solar eclipse, due out in 2026. Also, if you like my last episode with John Wesley Coleman, don't miss out on his bonus tour story over at my Patreon. It's wild. Links in the show notes. This podcast is created and produced by me, Josh Caldwell. Music by Visual Aid, my side music project. General support and copywriting by Miranda Caldwell. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come back next time.